A man gets the raise he's wanted for years, 20% more, every month. For about 3 months, he feels richer. Then something strange happens. The new salary becomes invisible. He feels exactly as stretched as before, sometimes worse. He is not bad with money. His brain is doing precisely what it evolved to do. This has a name. It's called the hedonic treadmill. And once you see how it works, you start to notice it everywhere. In the promotion you chased for 2 years and forgot about in 6 months, in the new apartment that stopped feeling exciting before you finished furnishing it, in the salary that seemed like enough when it was your goal, and not enough the moment it became your reality. The story begins in 1971 at Northwestern University, where a psychologist named Philip Brickman was trying to understand something that seemed obvious but had never been properly measured. Why do people who get what they want not appear to be happier than before they got it? Brickman, alongside philosopher Donald Campbell of Cornell University, proposed a disturbing answer. The human brain does not experience well-being in absolute terms. It experiences well-being in relative terms. It compares the current state to the previous state. And when the previous state changes, when you get used to something, the pleasure disappears. They called this mechanism hedonic adaptation. The image they used was a treadmill. You run, the ground moves, and you stay in exactly the same place. 7 years later, in 1978, Brickman and 2 colleagues, Dan Coates and Ronnie Janoff-Bullman, did something that seemed almost cruel on its own terms. They compared lottery winners with accident victims who had been left paraplegic. They interviewed 22 lottery winners and 29 people who had been paralyzed in accidents. The question was simple: who was happier? The answer was disturbing. The lottery winners were not significantly happier than the control group. And the paraplegics, though they reported lower happiness levels immediately after their accidents, showed a remarkable capacity for recovery. Their everyday well-being had not collapsed to where everyone would have expected it to be. Both groups had adapted. Both groups had returned to somewhere close to where they were before. What Brickman found was not simply that happiness returns to normal after major events. It was something more unsettling. When lottery winners were asked about the pleasure they felt in ordinary daily activities, talking with a friend, receiving a compliment, laughing at a joke, they reported levels significantly lower than the control group. The lottery had inflated their comparison baseline so dramatically that the ordinary had stopped registering. They could buy almost anything. And for precisely that reason, almost nothing satisfied them. This is the hedonic treadmill in its rawest form. A windfall does not permanently elevate pleasure. It permanently elevates the floor from which pleasure has to begin. But this is not only the story of lottery winners. In 1974, economist Richard Easterlin at the University of Southern California had already documented something that baffled his colleagues. He looked at economic data stretching across decades and found a paradox that still carries his name. Within any given country, at any given moment, richer people reported being happier than poorer people. That part made sense. What did not make sense was this. As entire countries grew wealthier over time, as average incomes rose generation after generation, average happiness did not rise with them. The United States had become vastly richer since the 1950s. Americans were not vastly happier. Japan had undergone one of the most dramatic economic expansions in human history. The Japanese reported no corresponding surge in well-being. The whole country was running. The treadmill kept pace. The mechanism behind the Easterlin paradox is the same one Brickman identified at the individual level, but playing out across societies. When your income rises, your sense of what is normal rises with it. Your neighbor's incomes rise too. The reference point shifts. You feel exactly as you did before, or you feel the gap more acutely, because the gap is now visible in a way it wasn't when everyone around you earned less. Two researchers at Princeton, Daniel Kahneman and Angus Deaton, published a landmark study in 2010 that seemed to offer a ceiling. Analyzing over 450,000 survey responses, they found that emotional well-being rose with income up to around $75,000 a year, and then plateaued. Beyond that, earning more didn't seem to make people feel better day to day. A decade later, Matthew Killingsworth at the University of Pennsylvania challenged that finding. His data suggested well-being kept rising with income past that threshold. The two researchers did something rare in academia. They collaborated to resolve the disagreement. What they found in 2023 was nuanced and worth sitting with. For most people, more money does correlate with more happiness. But for the roughly 15% of people who are already unhappy, regardless of income, more money changes almost nothing. The treadmill doesn't care how fast you run. We treat this as a personal failing, a discipline problem, a character flaw. You got more, you wanted more. What is wrong with you? But Brickman himself rejected that framing. Before his death in 1982, he wrote that adaptation is not weakness, it is architecture. The brain that grows numb to a stable salary is the same brain that would have grown numb to a stable predator and never seen it coming. Desensitization to what is constant, heightened sensitivity to what is new, that is survival logic. It served our ancestors extraordinarily well. It serves our bank accounts very poorly. Happiness, Brickman wrote, is not the surplus of pleasure over pain, but rather something that requires constant engagement. The treadmill doesn't stop because you earn more. It speeds up to match you. Now turn the lens on your own wallet. Think of the salary you once dreamed of, the number that, if you reached it, would mean you'd made it. Think of where you are now relative to that number. If you're at it or past it, notice what you feel. Not triumph, not arrival, a new target. The apartment that was the goal is now just where you live. The car you saved for is now just the car. The raise you negotiated is now just your salary. Each plateau becomes the new floor, and the ceiling is always somewhere just above where you currently stand. You are not ungrateful. You are not broken. Your brain is doing its job, a job it was given long before money existed. The mice on a real treadmill don't know they're not going anywhere. You do. You can look down and see the belt moving beneath your feet. You can't stop the mechanism. Adaptation is not a choice. But there is a difference between running unconsciously and running with your eyes open. Brickman spent his career studying happiness and concluded that the pursuit of more is not the problem. The illusion that more will finally feel like enough, that is the treadmill. And it has been running since long before your first paycheck.